There are 12 towns in Florida that your realtor is really, truly hoping you never research too closely. They're stunning. Postcard perfect beaches, charming downtown streets lined with art galleries and sidewalk cafes, waterfront sunsets over the Gulf of Mexico that make you want to sign a purchase agreement before you even check the flood zone. But behind every gorgeous view in these 12 towns is a financial trap, a safety problem, or a quality of life disaster that nobody bothers putting in the listing. One town nearly lost its flood insurance discount because FEMA caught residents rebuilding improperly after a hurricane. A famous retirement village watched its entire primary care system collapse into bankruptcy, owing the federal government $350 million. A Gulf Coast beach town got so violent during spring break that the police chief publicly declared the party was officially over. And the prettiest canal city in America, nearly 90% of its homes are at risk of flooding in the next 30 years. Subscribe now if you like, keeping your money past 65. This channel keeps the retirement dreams honest. Let's count them down. Number 12. Venice. Venice sits on the southwest Gulf Coast of Florida, and on the surface, it looks like someone designed the perfect retirement town in a lab. You can stroll from a vibrant, walkable downtown with restaurants and galleries straight to the Gulf of Mexico without ever crossing a bridge. 14 miles of beaches, free parking at most of them. The sand here is famous for fossilized shark teeth that wash up with every tide, which is either charming or mildly unsettling depending on how you feel about prehistoric predators. There's a gorgeous Italian-inspired downtown core with arched architecture and shaded sidewalks, and Sarasota Memorial recently built a full hospital campus right in town. The average resident age is 68.8, so the whole community is essentially built around retirees. Sounds perfect. So what's the problem? Growth. Specifically, a master plan development called Wellen Park that is exploding just south of town, racing toward 50,000 new residents and over 22,000 homes. And all of those people are going to be sharing Venice's roads, Venice's beaches, and Venice's grocery stores. The traffic on US 41 through Venice already crawls during season, and here's the kicker. Back in 2010, Florida quietly removed something called transportation concurrency rules. That means developers can legally build thousands of homes without being required to expand the roads to match. So the bulldozers keep rolling, and the two-lane roads stay exactly the same width. Meanwhile, buyers in those new developments are staring down CDD bond assessments of $1,800 to $3,000 a year on top of HOA dues running $250 to $400 a month, on top of homeowners insurance averaging over $6,000 annually. Add all of that to your mortgage, and the affordable Gulf Coast retirement starts looking a lot less affordable. The retirees who moved to Venice for peace and quiet are now watching construction cranes from their lanai every morning and sitting in traffic that didn't exist 3 years ago every afternoon. And roughly 70% of Venice Island proper actually sits outside a flood zone, which is rare and valuable on the Gulf Coast. So the town itself has a genuine advantage that the surrounding development is slowly suffocating with congestion and fees. Venice isn't ruined, but the version of Venice that people fell in love with 5 years ago is getting harder to find under all the orange traffic cones. Number 11. Daytona Beach. The name alone carries a certain mystique. That wide, flat beach where you can literally drive your car on the sand. The Daytona International Speedway rising up from the palmetto scrub like a concrete cathedral. The boardwalk amusement rides, the neon lights reflecting off the Atlantic Ocean at night, the old-school Florida beach town energy that feels like a postcard from a simpler era. And compared to the astronomical prices down in South Florida, Daytona Beach housing looks like a bargain. You can still find waterfront condos and modest homes at prices that would get you a parking space in Miami. But those prices are low for a reason, and the reason has a badge number attached to it. According to FBI data compiled by Neighborhood Scout, Daytona Beach has a crime rate of roughly 30 per 1,000 residents, which lands it higher than 92% of all communities in the entire state of Florida. That translates to about a 1 in 33 chance of becoming a crime victim in any given year. The city logged 13 murders in a recent year, and motor vehicle theft runs at one of the highest rates in the nation. Now, crime in Daytona is concentrated in specific neighborhoods, and there are absolutely pockets of the city that feel safe and pleasant. But when you're retired, living on a fixed income, and choosing where to spend potentially 20 or 30 years, check the crime map block by block before buying is not exactly the carefree beach retirement most people are imagining. The gorgeous wide beach is real, the bargain home prices are real. And the reason those prices stay low, that's real too. To be fair, Daytona Beach is also investing in its oceanfront redevelopment, and there are genuinely pleasant pockets around Ormond Beach and the Shores area. But the citywide statistics don't lie, and when you're comparing it against other Florida retirement options that don't require you to memorize a crime heat map before buying groceries, the math starts to speak for itself. Number 10. St. Augustine. This one breaks my heart a little because St. Augustine might be the most beautiful small city in the entire state of Florida. Founded in 1565, it's the oldest continuously occupied European established settlement in the United States. The Spanish colonial architecture is stunning. The Castillo de San Marcos fortress sits right on the waterfront, like something out of a history textbook. The cobblestone streets of the historic district are lined with centuries-old buildings converted into restaurants, bookshops, and galleries. The whole city has a warmth and character that most Florida towns can only dream about, and it is slowly, steadily drowning. The majority of St. Augustine sits in a floodplain, not near a floodplain, in one. Hurricane Matthew rolled through in 2016 and caused massive flooding that damaged 13 sewer pump stations in a single storm. Researchers now project that nuisance flooding from high tides alone, not hurricanes, just regular tides, will become a daily occurrence in parts of St. Augustine somewhere between 2040 and 2100. Just protecting the city's wastewater treatment plant from rising water could cost up to $100 million, which is roughly twice the city's entire annual budget. That's one plant. Not the roads, not the seawalls, not the historic buildings, just the sewage system. On top of the flooding, the compact historic downtown gets absolutely packed with tourists during peak season. It's gorgeous. It's historic. And the ocean is coming for it, whether the brochures mention it or not. For a retiree looking at a 30-year time horizon, the math on St. Augustine gets uncomfortable fast. Number 9, Panama City Beach. On the Florida Panhandle, the emerald green water of the Gulf of Mexico meets sugar white quartz sand in a way that honestly looks computer generated. Panama City Beach has some of the most visually stunning beach scenery in the entire country, and Gulfront condos here cost a fraction of what you'd pay in Naples or Sarasota. For about 9 months of the year, it's a calm, pleasant, genuinely lovely beach community. And then spring break arrives, and the whole place turns into a law enforcement staging ground. During the 2025 spring break season, Panama City Beach police responded to over 8,100 incidents in roughly 6 weeks. They issued more than 1,500 citations. They made 693 adult arrests and 77 juvenile arrests. Officers seized 61 firearms from the beach and surrounding areas. A 15-year-old accidentally shot himself. The violence and chaos got so bad that Police Chief Talamantes publicly stated, and this is a near-direct quote, that Panama City Beach can no longer be a spring break town. Period. The city responded by imposing an 8 p.m. curfew for unaccompanied minors, setting up security checkpoints, closing sections of beach, and passing a new high-impact period ordinance for 2026 with even stricter enforcement. So if you're a retiree who loves gorgeous emerald water and also enjoys the sound of police helicopters overhead every March, Panama City Beach might be your paradise. For everyone else, the calendar has a 6-week window that turns your tranquil beach retirement into something resembling a very sandy episode of Cops. Imagine spending 35 years building a retirement fund so you can sip coffee on your Gulfront balcony and watch the sunrise, and instead you're watching a 20-year-old get tased on the sand at 7 in the morning while a helicopter circles overhead. The city is clearly trying to fix it. The new ordinances are aggressive and the enforcement is real, but the spring break industrial complex has decades of momentum, and diverting it is going to take more than one tough season. Number 8. Punta Gorda. Punta Gorda is one of those towns that makes you wonder why it isn't more famous. A charming, artsy, walkable downtown sits right on Charlotte Harbor with 31 murals painted across historic buildings. Fisherman's Village is a waterfront shopping complex with views that belong in a tourism commercial. The town has a strong veteran and retiree population, an authentic old Florida feel without the tourist hordes, and enough restaurants and cultural events to keep life interesting without feeling overcrowded. It's beautiful in a way that feels earned rather than manufactured. It also sits directly in one of the most repeatedly targeted hurricane corridors in the state of Florida. On August 13, 2004, Hurricane Charlie slammed into Punta Gorda as a Category 4 storm with sustained winds of 145 miles per hour. 80% of all buildings in Charlotte County were damaged. The destruction was staggering. The town spent years rebuilding, and to their credit, they rebuilt beautifully. New codes, stronger structures, a revitalized downtown. Then on September 28, 2022, Hurricane Ian made a second landfall just south of Punta Gorda, also a Category 4. Also 145 miles per hour, almost the exact same spot 18 years apart. Two Category 4 hurricanes hitting the same small town in less than 2 decades isn't bad luck, it's geography. Punta Gorda, rebuilt again, and it's lovely again. But the insurance companies noticed the pattern even if the real estate listings don't mention it. Some towns have character. Punta Gorda has a target painted on its roof. Number 7. The Villages. Welcome to the most famous retirement community on the planet. The Villages sprawls across 3 counties in central Florida and is home to over 86,000 residents in what is essentially a self-contained city designed entirely around the concept of active retirement. There are over 3,000 clubs, dozens of golf courses, pickleball courts that stay packed from sunrise to sunset, town squares with nightly live entertainment. You can drive your golf cart to dinner, to the grocery store, to your doctor's appointment. Homes range from under 200,000 to well over $1 million. The safety rating sits in the 97th percentile. And before we go any further, let's kill the most persistent myth right now. The Villages is not the STD capital of America. That claim has been debunked repeatedly. The surrounding counties all report STD rates below the Florida state average. The rumor traces back to a single recanted news quote from 2006 and somehow never died. So no, that's not the problem. The actual problems are financial and medical. The monthly amenity fee, which covers access to all those golf courses and rec centers, rose to $199 as of January 2025. The old cap of $155 was removed back in 2019, so the fee now rises with inflation indefinitely. On top of that, newer homes in the southern expansion areas carry CDD bond assessments of $3,000 to over $6,000 a year on the tax bill. Those fees never go away. Then came the healthcare crisis. The Village's Health, the primary care system that served roughly 55,000 patients across the community, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on July 3, 2025. The federal government held the largest claim at approximately $361 million related to Medicare overbilling allegations. The system was eventually sold to Humana's CenterWell for $68 million in cash. But 25,000 United Healthcare members were at risk of losing their providers during the transition. And then there are the golf carts. Everyone drives them. They're part of the charm. The Sumter County Sheriff's Office logged 54 golf cart crashes in the first quarter of 2024 alone, putting the community on pace for over 200 crashes per year. A peer-reviewed study covering 2011 through 2019 found that 48% of golf cart crashes in the Villages resulted in hospitalization, severe trauma, or death. In January 2026, a red light golf cart collision killed 2 residents. One more thing. The Villages sits in central Florida with no ocean breeze to take the edge off. The heat risk is rated extreme, and climate projections show the area reaching roughly 71 days per year above 95 degrees Fahrenheit by 2050. That's 2.5 months of brutal, humid, triple-digit feeling heat every summer. in a community where most residents are over 65 and spending their days outdoors on golf courses and pickleball courts. The Villages is a genuinely impressive lifestyle machine, but the rising fees, the healthcare disruption, the golf cart crashes, and the baking summer heat are the fine print that the welcome brochure conveniently glosses over. If you're enjoying this countdown and you want more videos like this breaking down the truth about retirement destinations, hit that subscribe button. We cover the best and worst places to live, retire, and invest in real estate every single week. Number 6, Marco Island. Marco Island floats off the southwest tip of Florida like a 6-mile crescent of sugar white sand that someone accidentally dropped into the Gulf of Mexico. It's upscale, low crime, and undeniably gorgeous. The median resident age is around 67, so it's already a de facto retirement community. A brand new $20 million urgent care facility opened in 2025. The sunsets over the Gulf from Tiger Tail Beach are the kind of thing people set as their phone wallpaper and then spend years trying to move closer to. The cost of getting closer is where things go sideways. Cost of living on Marco Island runs 42 to 60% above the national average, and the housing index sits over 200. Median home sale prices hover around $1 million to $1.17 million. And once you buy, the insurance bill arrives. Combined wind, flood, and hazard coverage on Marco Island realistically runs $9,000 to $15,000 per year, and it climbs with every renewal cycle. Flood insurance will be mandatory for all Citizens policyholders by 2027. But the money isn't even the most disorienting part. Marco Island has no movie theater, very limited nightlife. The nearest full hospital is in Naples, which is a 20-minute drive on a good day and 45 minutes or more during tourist season when the bridge backs up. The island's population swings from roughly 16,000 permanent residents in summer to over 40,000 during winter season, which means the infrastructure is either underused or overwhelmed depending on the month. And thanks to Florida's post-Surfside condo safety laws, condominium owners across the island are facing special assessments that can run into the tens of thousands to fund mandatory structural inspections and repairs. Marco Island is $1 million address where you drive 45 minutes to see a doctor and an hour to see a movie. Beautiful? Absolutely. Practical for retirement on a budget? Not even close. Number 5, Fort Myers Beach. Before Hurricane Ian, Fort Myers Beach was a funky, eclectic barrier island community on Estero Island with an old Florida charm that bigger beach towns lost decades ago. Tiki bars, casual seafood joints, flip-flop friendly streets, and a community that felt more like a beach village than a resort destination. It was the kind of place where retirees moved specifically because it hadn't been overdeveloped. Then came September 28, 2022. Hurricane Ian pushed a storm surge of 12 to 18 feet across Estero Island, which is roughly the height of a 2-story building made entirely of ocean. Nearly every structure on the island sustained damage. 16 people lost their lives. The images of Fort Myers Beach in the days after Ian looked less like Florida and more like a war zone. Homes were ripped from their foundations and deposited in the middle of streets. Boats sat on top of buildings. And here's the part that stings the most for anyone considering a retirement move. More than 3 years later, Fort Myers Beach is still rebuilding. Town. Officials initially hoped for a 3 to 5 year recovery timeline. That estimate has since been revised to 10 to 12 years. Construction crews and heavy equipment are a constant presence. Then in 2024, Hurricanes Helene and Milton rolled through and reflooded ground-level rebuilds that hadn't been elevated yet. Stricter building codes now require new and substantially damaged structures to be elevated significantly, which has priced out some longtime residents and made new construction dramatically more expensive. The town has also dealt with serious budget problems, including an $11.9 million state loan to keep operations running. Fort Myers Beach will be beautiful again someday, but right now and for years to come, the construction cranes outnumber the palm trees. Number 4, Naples. Naples is the crown jewel of Southwest Florida, and it earns that reputation. The beaches are pristine. The downtown district along 5th Avenue South is lined with upscale restaurants, galleries, and boutiques. Healthcare options are genuinely excellent, which matters enormously for retirees. Crime is low. The community is polished, manicured, and deeply established. Naples has been a premier retirement destination for decades, and if money is not an object, it delivers on nearly every promise. Money, however, is an object for most people. The median sale price in Naples as of mid 2026 sits around $1.3 million. Cost of living runs roughly 28% above the national average, and that number climbs significantly when you factor in the premium real estate. According to several financial analyses, a comfortable retirement for a couple in Naples requires an annual income of approximately $200,000. That is not a typo. 200 grand a year to retire comfortably. And the financial pressure doesn't stop at the purchase price. First Street Foundation data shows that 98% of all properties in Naples face severe flood risk over the next 30 years, and 100% face extreme wind risk. That combination means insurance premiums that rival monthly mortgage payments. Naples also learned in May 2025 that its natural surroundings come with a sharp edge when a fatal black bear attack occurred in rural Collier County, a rare but sobering reminder that you're sharing space with actual wildlife, not just landscaping. The wildlife situation adds a layer that the real estate brochures definitely leave out. Collier County borders the Everglades, and the nature doesn't stop at the county line. Alligators in retention ponds are practically a neighborhood amenity. The fatal bear attack was an extreme outlier, but it's a reminder that Naples exists at the border between luxury living and actual wilderness, and the wilderness isn't always impressed by the property values next door. Naples is beautiful in a way that photographs perfectly and budgets terribly. If you've got the money, it's spectacular. If you're watching your spending in retirement, Naples will watch your savings evaporate with a smile. Number 3. Sanibel Island. Sanibel Island is unlike anywhere else in Florida, a conservation-first barrier island where over 60% of the land is permanently protected as wildlife refuge, where a 50-year-old development plan keeps every building low-rise and tucked behind vegetation, and where 25 miles of bike paths wind through a landscape that feels more like a nature preserve than a beach town. The shelling on Sanibel is world-class. The J.N. Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge is one of the most visited refuges in the country, and the deliberate absence of chain restaurants, high-rises, and neon signs gives the island a character that developers have tried and failed to replicate all over Florida. On September 28, 2022, Hurricane Ian didn't just damage Sanibel, it severed the island from the mainland. The Sanibel Causeway, the only road connecting the island to Fort Myers, was destroyed by the storm surge. Residents and business owners were literally cut off, reachable only by boat or helicopter. The $328 million causeway reconstruction was completed in mid-2025, nearly 3 years after the storm. Some restaurants and businesses on the island didn't regain permanent electrical power for hundreds of days after Ian. The recovery is ongoing property by property, block by block. And even before the Hurricane Sanibel was expensive. Homes start in the 600s and run well into the multiple millions for Gulf front properties. Insurance premiums before Ian were already running around $6,000 a year for larger homes, and post-storm exposure has pushed those numbers considerably higher. That single causeway that makes Sanibel feel exclusive and private is the same single causeway that becomes a bottleneck during hurricane evacuation. Sanibel is gorgeous the way a vintage sports car with no engine is gorgeous, stunning to admire. A little terrifying to depend on. If you've been watching this far, I'm going to take a guess that you like content that doesn't sugarcoat things. Drop a like on this video so more people can find it, and stick around, because the top 2 are the ones that will really blow your mind. Number 2, Cape Coral. From the sky, Cape Coral looks like a masterpiece of waterfront engineering. Over 400 miles of navigable canals weave through the city, making it one of the largest networks of man-made waterways in the world. Gulf access homes let you dock a boat in your backyard and motor out to the open water within minutes. Palm-lined streets, waterfront sunsets, and home prices that still look reasonable compared to the barrier islands nearby. Cape Coral has attracted retirees by the thousands with the promise of an affordable Florida canal lifestyle, and nearly every single one of those canal homes is sitting in a flood zone. According to First Street Foundation, 116,216 properties in Cape Coral, representing 89.5% of all properties in the city, face risk of flooding over the next 30 years. That is the highest flood exposure of any city in the entire state of Florida. A director at First Street told NPR in 2024 that for every home in Cape Coral, almost, there's a canal, and those canals are going to cause flooding. After Hurricane Ian tore through southwest Florida in 2022, causing an estimated $112 billion in regional damage, FEMA actually proposed pulling Cape Coral's community rating system flood insurance discount, which would have meant dramatically higher premiums for roughly 50,000 structures. The city fought back and successfully retained its Class 5 rating and 25% discount in November 2024. But the fact that FEMA seriously considered pulling the discount tells you everything about the risk level. Gulf access canal homes in Cape Coral can cost $7,500 to $10,000 a year to insure, and that's with the discount. Older pre-2000 homes in high-risk AE flood zones are the most expensive to cover and the most likely to flood. Cape Coral looks like a water lover's dream from every angle. But the water loves Cape Coral right back, and not in a good way. Number 1, Key West. And here we are. The granddaddy of beautiful Florida towns that will absolutely, positively clean out your retirement fund without a second thought. Key West is the southernmost point of the continental United States. Turquoise water wraps around the island in every direction. Historic conch houses painted in pastel yellows and seafoam greens line streets canopied by tropical trees. Duval Street hums with live music, open-air bars, and an energy that's completely unique in America. Mallory Square fills with street performers every evening as the sun drops into the Gulf of Mexico in a blaze of orange and pink. Ernest Hemingway wrote some of his greatest novels here. Tennessee Williams called it home. It's an island that runs on art, freedom, and the stubborn refusal to behave like the rest of Florida. And it costs more money than almost anywhere else in the state. The median home value in Key West sits around $1 million. Cost of living runs 42 to 48% above the national average, which is staggering when you remember that the national average already includes New York and San Francisco, but the raw numbers don't capture the full picture. Key West is an island at the very end of U.S. Route 1, the overseas highway. There is one road in and one road out. That single road reality means that groceries cost more, fuel costs more, healthcare costs more, a plumber costs more. Everything on the island carries what locals call the island tax, which is the premium you pay for the privilege of living at the end of a 100-mile chain of bridges in the open ocean. Hurricane evacuation means driving that same single highway north through the Keys, while sharing it with every other person trying to leave, which is exactly as fun as it sounds. Locals joke that the only thing cheap in Key West is the sunlight. A gallon of milk costs noticeably more than on the mainland. A basic home repair that would cost $400 in Orlando costs $700 in Key West because the tradesperson had to drive 2 hours down the overseas highway just to get there. Healthcare options are limited to a single hospital, and anything requiring a specialist means a trip back up to the mainland. Key West is the Florida dream in its purest, most concentrated, most cinematically perfect, and most absolutely unaffordable form. If you're retiring on a couple $1 million in liquid assets, you might make it work. If you're planning to stretch a pension and Social Security on this island, the sunset will be gorgeous, but your bank account will not survive to watch many of them. So there they are. 12 of the most beautiful towns in Florida, and 12 reasons to read the fine print before you sign anything. Florida is an incredible place to retire if you do it with your eyes open. Just make sure you're looking at the data, not just the sunset. If you made it all the way to the end, you are clearly someone who does their homework. Hit subscribe so you never miss a video, and we'll see you in the next one.